Hi, I'm Greg, and this is my review of Stay Away by Escape Studios and Pendragon Game Studios. The game was designed by Antonio Ferreira and Sebastian Fiorilolio. I butchered the name, I apologize. Um, the premise of Stay Alive is an archaeological team has gone out to the sunken city of R'lyeh and has sent out a distress signal back to base saying that something has gone terribly wrong and they've uncovered a ancient monster. Some people are attacking and killing each other, and other weird goings-on are happening. And basically, you are sent out with your team of archaeologists to find out what happened, rescue the crew there if possible, and then get back home safely. But once you arrive, you find all the crew dead, and a warning that says something's been unleashed, and it could be any one of you. And that's how the game pretty much begins. There's a fun little story dialogue in the manual that I recommend reading out loud before people begin the game. It gets a nice mood to it. So let's get right to the gameplay. So this is how Stay Alive works. Basically, one player is going to become the Thing, which, as you can tell from the image, is Cthulhu. And in the text, in the manual, in the introductory story, they talk about how archaeologists uncovered an ancient creature in the ancient city of R'lyeh that has now taken the form of another player. And so basically, you're trying to deduce who is the Thing and kill it before it infects all the other players or kills all the humans. So to begin the game, you have to remove all the cards from the deck that have the corresponding player number on the bottom of the card. So as you can see from this card, it has a 4 at the bottom corner. This would be used for 4 or more players. So you remove all the cards that correspond to the number of players. In this case, I'm going to show you how to start up for 4 players. So you remove all the cards that have a 4 on them for 4 players, or if you were playing with 5 players, you remove the 4 and the 5s. 6 players, the 4, 5s, and 6, etc., etc. The game plays up to 12 players. This is very important because it's how you can balance the game. So you take all the cards that have 4 players on them, including cards that have a panic card on the back. Panic cards look like this. Then what you do is you shuffle. Then what you do is you remove all of the infected cards that look like this, and all the panic cards, and put them aside. You also have the Thing card at the side of the table. Now what you do is you shuffle the Stay Alive cards. Give them a good shuffle, and then you deal out 4 times the number of cards that there are players, minus 1. So with 4 players, you deal out 15 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. You put the rest of the cards aside with the infected and panic cards that you put aside earlier. You grab the Thing card, place that in the pile, give it a good shuffle. Try not to throw the cards around. Once you've got you feel like you're doing a good shuffle, you deal 4 cards to each player. So in this case, with 4 players, I would deal out 4 cards into 4 piles. So there's the starting hands. Everyone has 4 cards, and will always have 4 cards no matter what. Your hand size never goes up and never goes down. So everyone will take a moment to read over the cards that they have in their hand. If you don't have a Thing card in your hand, then you aren't infected. So, for example, as we see from the hands here, this player has the Thing card, therefore they are the Thing. Their objective in the game is to either infect all the other players or eliminate all players. If they infect all the other players and no players are eliminated, the Thing wins. If they infect all the other players and eliminate a few, then everybody who's infected and the Thing wins. The human players are trying to get rid of the Thing. In the basic game, basically once you get rid of the Thing and you feel like you've done it, you announce that the humans have won. Everyone reveals their hands. If the Thing is truly dead, humans win. If the thing is still alive, the thing wins. The thing it declares when they feel like they've either infected everybody or the only people that are left remaining are infected, they declare they have won. Everyone reveals their hands, and if someone is not infected and they're still human, the thing loses, and the humans win. So, with that said, the way the game flows is that you would now take the rest of the cards that you put aside earlier, shuffle them pretty thoroughly to get a good, so that the panic cards and the affected cards also get shuffled in with the regular cards, and you place that in the center of the table. The important thing to note is that seating position is extremely important in this game because you're always going to be interacting with the people adjacent to you. And there are cards that will switch seating positions. During your turn, you draw the top card from the deck and add it to your hand. If it's a stay alive card, you have an option of either playing another card from your hand, including the one that you just drew, or discarding a card face down into a discard pile. That way you always have 4 cards in your hand by the end of your turn. If you draw a panic card, your only option is to play it immediately. Panic cards are like events. They affect sometimes all players, sometimes just a handful of players, but generally they are things that keep the game going, like people reveal cards, you trade cards with other people, you switch seats, etc., etc., etc. So these are kind of super powerful cards that can help change the flow of the game pretty quickly, like reverse the direction and whatnot. Now at this point, the player whose active turn it is ends with them trading a card to the player on their left, or as the instruction manual says, in the next order. So basically, whoever's going next gets a card from you and has to give you a card. The cards are traded face down, so you don't look at the card and then give the player a card. You just have to trade them blindly. But obviously, you can choose which card you want to trade. If you are the thing, you cannot trade the thing card. That's the only exception. If you're a human player, you cannot trade the infected card. Only the thing can trade infected cards. So those are the only 2 exceptions to trading to the player that's in the next turn order. The reason why it's important to emphasize next turn order is the order can change directions. You might be going clockwise one turn, only to go counterclockwise the next turn. Now, this goes around the table until people start eliminating other players, putting barred cards down, and basically infecting each other. As a human player, if you draw an affected card from the draw deck, you are not infected. You only become infected if you are handed an infected card from another player. And since only the thing player can pass an infected card, there's a bit of an honor system in place. Also, if you are infected, you cannot discard that infected card. But if you're a human player who has not been infected, you can discard the card face down. There are some strategies where you might want to keep some infected cards in your hand, even if you're not infected, in order to prevent the thing from infecting you. But there are a lot of cards that will randomly show another player. Sorry, there are cards that will show a player a random card from your hand, or like Whiskey card, you have to reveal your entire hand. And if that happens, if people see an infected card, they might wrongfully assume that you are infected and then play a flamethrower on you to kill you and eliminate you from the game. The flamethrower is the only way to eliminate another player. So, as you can tell, the artwork on this game is pretty cool. I really like it. It's pretty creepy, some of them. Some of them are pretty funny. There's like the axe card, which breaks down barriers. There's barriers that prevent people from playing cards on you. There's quarantine cards that keep you for a certain number of rounds where nobody can harm you, or play a card on you or infect you, etc., etc. There's change places card that make you change your seats physically around the table, so that way you can start handing cards to new players. So there's a lot of little neat events and cards that really make this game a lot of fun. So that's basically it. The game keeps going around until one team declares that they've won, and then everyone sees if they've won. So let's move on to the conclusion. That's basically how Stay Away works. It's a pretty simple game. It's very much a game like, I would say, similar in vein to games like Avalon or Resistance, Werewolf, Bloodbound, or Shadowhunters, where it's a fun party game that You can really play with a lot of players. The game lasts 15 minutes to an hour, depending on the number of players. There's a lot of secrets and changing alliances and deduction and lots of cards that really help you narrow down who is the thing before you want to eliminate other players. Because as one player suggested, why don't we just eliminate all the players? Like, you get a flamethrower card, just play it on the player next to you, slowly eliminate one by one. Well, that is one strategy, but of course, the more players you eliminate that are not the thing, the more likely you're going to be infected and the thing is going to win. Yes, you technically could win by the thing winning that way, but where's the fun in just kind of randomly allowing someone to win by basically just playing the game like a jerk in a way? But hey, if that's fun, then by all means, do that. But there is an honor system in place, so you have to trust that no one's going to lie or cheat. Like most games, it's always more fun if you don't cheat, unless you're playing a Steve Jackson game where cheating is encouraged. But in this game, I feel like we played it a few times back to back. Nobody really cheated, and it requires a really good poker face. Like, for example, one player randomly looked at another player's cards and got the thing and saw that the player was a thing and then started laughing, which made it very obvious what kind of card they saw without us seeing the cards. You also have to be very careful to make sure all your cards are hidden at all times. And when you discard a card face down, the only downside to that is that you can get confused with the draw pile, especially when the draw pile gets smaller and smaller and the discard pile is getting bigger and bigger. Once the draw pile runs out, you shuffle the discard pile again, and then it becomes your new draw pile. So I would encourage either having a player mat or a board or something where you can clearly put, this is the draw pile and these are the discard piles, or have somebody like a dealer be in charge of the discard pile where they can put it off to a safe, like somewhere safe, and then you basically hand them cards face down. They trustworthy enough that they won't look at them and place them neatly aside, just to make things a little less confusing, especially with a large group of people. Overall, I really, really enjoyed this game. I think it's a pretty solid genre game, especially like a party style. I give it a strong 9 out of 10. It was really fun. We had a really good time playing it. The artwork is really cool. The rotating trader mechanic works really well for this game, which is really easy to screw up. You can easily make it where people are infected within the second turn, or you can make it where it just doesn't work because the alliances keep shifting too often. There's no strategy involved, but I feel like they did a lot to balance that out for this game, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Another variant that they have in the rules is that you can put the thing card into the draw deck so that everyone starts with 4 cards and no one yet is infected. And you have to go through the draw deck in order to have someone become infected randomly. That was pretty fun too. It was a lot more intense and suspenseful because you didn't know who was going to be infected, and you had already built kind of trusts with certain players, and then all of a sudden you're the thing. So that was cool. I got in that particular one, I became the thing after having an effect card. So I was passing the effect card to the player on my left, and they put a no thanks or miss card, and then that passed to the player on their left. So then that player became on my side, who then flamethrowered another player, and then I was able to flamethrow the player to my left, and then we won the game. So that was a fun little quick alliance change that I thought worked really well. So I highly recommend the game. If you haven't played it or you don't have a copy, I recommend you check it out first. Like any game, it was a Kickstarter, and they did a great job with it. Welcome to the segment I like to call Should This Belong on Your Shelf? Basically, I'm going to talk about the game here briefly, about whether or not it should be on your shelf. Not by whether it's good or bad, but more about if you have other games that are very similar to it, is there enough diversity, enough fun factor, enough theme to really make it part of your collection? Or if you have, for example, Werewolf, should you really buy this game? So with Stay Away, I think it definitely belongs on your shelf no matter how many of these games you have. The thing is, the game is really unique in the sense of the kind of shifting trader mechanic is done extremely well. Games like Resistance, where you have traders already pre-built and you have very little information, doesn't quite work for me, because as the non-trader characters, you don't know anything, and as the trader characters, you have almost too much information, so you can easily tweak the game to your favor. Unless you're playing with extremely seasoned players that kind of have a strategy built in place based on their previous playthroughs. Games like that can really hurt new players. This game does not have that problem. You can play this with experienced players, and you can play this with new players, and everybody has an equal footing, and everybody has an equal chance of surviving based on the card plays that they play. And also, unlike Werewolf, you also have defense cards in this game so that you can block people from hurting you. You can block people from trading cards with you, and then they can use an axe to break down doors that you're building up to block. That mechanic to me worked really well as well, and it was kind of fun and it was different for these type of games. Games like Shadowhunters and Bloodbound, where they have similar mechanics of like trying to deduce who is what and get rid of that player. Use very different strategies. Like in Shadowhunters, you're kind of focusing on hit points and giving people cards. In Bloodbound, you're kind of focusing on what is revealed and then making an educated guess. In this game, you're really just kind of playing cards to kind of narrow down suspects and judging by like cards like when you preview someone's hand or like you drink a whiskey and you show everybody, hey, look, I'm a human player. Then that stuff really helps give everybody at the table more information, but that information is limited in time because turn or two later, that thing could give that person an affected card. So I definitely think there's room on your bookshelf or your board game shelf or drawers or wherever you keep your games for this game because it's a fun, short, large number of player game that really works in a diverse settings. The only people I could see that would be turned off by this game is people who don't like the theme. If you're not a fan of John Carpenter's The Thing or Cthulhu or basically games where you're limiting other players, then stay away from this game. This game is not a co-op game really, and if you're looking for something with like deep strategy or really, really rich theme, once again, this is not the game for you. But if you're looking for a fun, quick game that you can play with 4 to 12 players that has a lot of laughs, has a lot of thematicness to it, despite the fact that what I just said is like it's not dripping in theme, but it definitely fits the theme. It fits it well too. I mean, you kind of feel like you're on the set of John Carpenter's The Thing, where you can't really trust anybody, and you're really paranoid about who's what, and it's really suspenseful every time you get a card. Like, am I going to be infected now? What did this person give me? Oh, they gave me an axe. Okay, cool. Is that person a human player, or can I trust them or not? And so you kind of have a lot of really cool moments that like games like Werewolf, for example, don't really have. Don't get me wrong, I love Werewolf, but I would play this game any day over Werewolf if I have 12 players because it's shorter and you get more information and it really, really works. So thank you for listening and watching, and I hope you enjoyed this review. I plan to do some more. This is my first one, so I do apologize for some of the lighting issues or some mistakes I might have made. But thank you. Feel free to leave comments, and look forward to more reviews.